Wow, well, welcome to this edition of True Talk, where we deal with real problems and bring biblical solutions to them. That's where the rubber meets the road, where real people live. And my guest who's with us tonight is no stranger to you. He's no stranger among us, but he's been featured all over the place. I mean, he's been on ABC Nightline, he's been on NBC, he's been on TV1, he's been in Essence, he's been in Forbes, he's been in Heart and Soul, he's been in Black Enterprise magazine. He's a psychologist, he's a minister, he's a motivational speaker, he is an intervention specialist, and he's an author. Will you welcome my friend, Dr. Alduan Tartt. Wonderful, wonderful. We're just so blessed to have you here with us again. You have this wonderful way of being able to make life real and relatable to people and take truth. I mean, a lot of people don't realize all truth ultimately comes from God, just like all lies ultimately come from the devil. It doesn't care who tells it. If it's a lie, it comes from the devil. Now, we're going to talk in this session about relationships. Now, he's had quite a bit of experience with relationships. He's a father, he's a husband, just those two relationships can qualify you right there, So that is a wonderful blessing. Relationships are the essence of life. Relationships are the essence of life. And then communication is the basis of relationship. And then exchange is the process of life. It's the process of life. Life operates on this whole thing. Plants give off one thing that we need to breathe, and what we exhale, they need to live. That's exchange. That's called exchange. It is the process of life. Business works by that. Exchange, it's a relationship. All of life works by relationships. The better I think that we understand relationships, the better we do in life in general. Is that your opinion? Is that your experience been that?
When you're in a relationship and your relationship skills are short, that relationship is also going to be short. Oh, wow. And a lot of us weren't taught relationship skills. We weren't taught. I like you, you like me, let's make it work. But when it comes down to communicating feelings, setting boundaries, setting expectations, a lot of times we fall short.
Wow. Now let me ask, are people at a better advantage, for example, if you grow up in a big family where you have to learn boundaries to be able to respect each other, as opposed to being like an only child? Is there some, of course I know that dysfunction comes in all sizes, but is there an advantage to being raised in a large family as opposed to being like an only child in terms of learning things about relationship?
I think being in a big family requires you to have to share, to have to collaborate, to have to negotiate, to have to be able to work together, have teamwork. But the core thing is being able to learn boundaries. What I see a lot of times are people that watch their parents never set boundaries. A mom just hung in there with dad. And when you ask them, what did mom get out of the relationship? And they would look like nothing. You just hang in there. And so when they don't learn boundaries as a child, you go into relationships and you don't set boundaries. You don't have standards. And so you just date the first person that comes up to you that you like with no boundaries. And then relationship ends unfavorably because with no boundaries, there are no rules. And so they can do what they want to do. And so this is typical of women and men too that tend to be too nice. They're too nice. I'll save that for later.
Wow. Now, I've been ministering now for 40 years. In 40 years of ministry, probably the most common thing that I deal with are relationship problems. And here in a nutshell, maybe probably the top issues that I face with. Communication problems, sex, whether it's too much or not enough, or that it's being shared in places it shouldn't.
You said too much.
You know how sometimes, I mean, my wife blew my back out one time. You're not as old as I am, so you know, that's what, we just talked about boundaries. But communication, sexual matters, money matters, in-laws, butting in to the affairs, and then so much that married couples argue over revolves around the children, how they're disciplined, what's allowed for them, what is not, who disciplines them, all of those issues. And then I've seen other relationships that have gotten in deep, deep trouble because of health issues. And then now, much more frequently than many years ago, addictions, particularly pornography and gambling and drugs, alcohol, and all kinds of things. And that brings a whole nother dysfunctional dynamic to the two relationships. And the whole family, I notice, suffers, whether it's a child or a spouse who has an addiction issue. So maybe we'll touch on that. But here's what I want to begin with. What are some of the questions to consider before a person gets involved in a new romantic relationship?
Ooh, that's a good one. That's a good one. Because a lot of people don't even think about it. One, and I'm going to talk about what I think women should look for in men, but I think it also applies. What is his track record? Well, it doesn't matter what kind of job he has. It doesn't matter how tall, dark, and handsome he is. I mean, those things are important. Don't get me wrong. But when we start talking about the skill of the relationship, has he been in monogamous relationships before? Okay. If he has not, why not? Has he been able to be faithful in those relationships? How is he able to express his feelings when he's upset, or does he just shut down? Wow. Let's see.
Wait, give these folks some time to breathe and digest this, because they need to write this down. Single folks, raise your hand. Single, if you're single. Good God Almighty! Oh, this is for you.
Good time.
Oh my goodness. Oh, now I don't know how true this is, but I just saw a meme today that said this. I don't know whether it's, just because you see it in social media doesn't mean it's a fact. But it said this. It was advice to ladies. It said that if a man has abs, he didn't get it just to share with one girl. It said if he had an 8-pack, it said he didn't develop that just to be able to share that with one girl. I don't know what you can tell me.
Well, all right. So I think you have to ask a guy, where are you when it comes to marriage? Are you marriage minded? You need to, and a lot of people, I don't want to ask it on the first date, but you need to ask guys before you already have your feelings in it, before you start liking him. Where are you right now? Because there are guys out there who are trying to play women and they're not ready to settle down. But there are also men that are ready to marry right now. When we're ready to marry right now. And they all have abs, they all have abs. But I think you have to make sure that they have time. That's another one. Do you have time to commit to me in this marriage? There are a lot of men that are just busy. You know what I see, Bishop? I see a lot of women that see a lot of red flags on the first couple of dates and they truck right on through them. Yep. Guys, are you with me? You're consulting and they're telling you about this guy and you're like, hold on. He's unemployed. Yeah. All right. All right. He doesn't talk to his mom. Yeah. All right. Yep. And he can't get along with people at work. Wow. But you're going on a third date. You have to be able to see the red flags and keep it moving. But one of the things I think helps women, and you tell me what you think, because it's 2000s now, is that if you're just dating, you should be dating multiple guys. Wow. He's not asked you to be monogamous. If you are, I didn't say being with every guy for clarity. I felt that in my spirit.
Somebody has already run off with that.
I didn't say that.
They already got the license now.
I think you should have multiple candidates. You should have multiple candidates because you figure out who you are while you're dating. There are a lot of people just dated one guy. one woman, and then they say, I don't like men, I don't like women. You don't know men or women. You've only dated one or two.
Yeah, right.
And when you have candidates, it's like a job.
Yeah.
You don't feel pressed. And there are a lot of women that feel this old school notion that I'm going to date a guy that hasn't asked me to be monogamous. Why would I be monogamous with a guy that hasn't asked for it or earned it?
Yeah.
So I'm going to date as many eligible guys until I pick the one that God has sent for me.
Now, does this work both ways? This works for guys too.
All right, so let me tell you what happened. So, all right, so you know how your advice, goes wrong. So I'm dating my wife, go over to the house, and I haven't really asked if she's dating anyone. You don't ask questions you don't want the answer to. I'm just thinking like any other guy, I'm going to knock all these other guys out the way.
Right.
Because I'm assuming someone this fine, this nice, and I can't find any issues, well, minor issues. You know, if I can't find them, I know she's dating other guys. So I'm going to knock all those guys out the box. So I go to pick her up from her house, and Bishop, I see flowers sitting on the kitchen table.
Wow.
Only problem, I didn't send them. So I'm thinking, she goes to the bathroom, so I study the flowers, take a picture of the flowers. Guys understand this. Okay, all right. So the next day, I send her some flowers. I sent her 24 roses with the little cubes in them, with the lights. Man, I was like, just put everything. If you can put a pet in there, put them in there. But she didn't call me. I waited. And then around 4 o'clock, I called her. I said, hey, how you doing? I said, you get anything? You know, you fishing for a car. You get anything in the office? She says, yeah. I like the flowers. I said, yeah, they're way better than the ones on your kitchen table. She says, oh, the ones that dad sent me? I said, well, let him know it's a new dad now. But yeah, I assumed she was dating other guys.
Wow.
And so I wanted to put the best foot forward. I wanted to be top. I wanted to be supreme because she wasn't always available. Yeah. If I would call, what are you doing Friday? I have plans.
Yeah. Wow.
What about Saturday? Plans. And I'm gonna confess. So this is, do I qualify as a millennial? All right, we're gonna believe that lie.
You're on the other end of that now. You know?
I'm looking at Facebook, and she's out on Friday night, and she wasn't out with me. So I knew there were other guys that had her attention, and so I knew I had to step my game up until I eliminated those other guys.
Wow. Now, is this like, so now, is it healthy? You know, like programs like The Bachelor and The Bachelorette, okay, where you have multiple candidates. Maybe should we do one of those here?
Absolutely not. You saw who suggested that. No, absolutely not. Matter of fact, we caught our oldest daughter watching that. We caught her watching it on her phone because when she walked by, she saw the kids at school are talking about a black woman that was on The Bachelorette, or Bachelor, whatever it is. And I had to sit down and talk to her. Yeah. This is the absolute wrong thing to watch. Wow. You don't kiss multiple guys on the first date.
See, now, that's what I was going to try to get to. That's what I thought that you were advocating here. Like, keep your options open. Don't. I mean, that's what immediately came to my mind, where they're just kissing 15 different people and.
No, it's not like men like to chase.
Right.
I actually had to sit down and talk to my wife. I said, I don't think you like me. At the time, I had a show on BET. It never saw the light of day. It was stopped before it came out, but it was a show. So I had a red carpet. I mean, BET made me feel special. She was my date, and this is about date 5. I knew I was going to get a kiss when I got home. I knew it. And when I went to kiss her, she turned to the side and I got the cheek. And I said, I have morals too, but I can't tell that you like me.
Wow.
I can't tell that you like me, And she said, I'm like an onion. You have to peel me back. I have layers before I just open myself up to you.
Wow.
I've never kissed any man.
Wow.
Before they were my man. So that turned me on.
Wow. Ladies, men do like a chase. And when it's, If you have something that is valuable, you never take valuable stuff and put it on sale. You don't put gold on sale. You don't put platinum on sale. You don't discount what is supposedly rare. So there is a certain amount of excitement in the chase, because if a man will not fight to you, he won't fight for you. So, touche. Wow, that's quite interesting. That's quite interesting. Let's ask this. How do you know if you're ready for a new relationship? Let's say a person has been dating someone, and obviously if they're no longer dating them, it didn't end well. And it could have ended where they are still friends, but oftentimes there was something negative that caused the breakup of that relationship. And I don't think that it's healthy to just break up Friday night and then you're on Facebook Saturday night trying to get another date to say, let me see, because I'm going to fix him, or I will fix her. So how do you know when you're ready for a new relationship, particularly if you've gone through heartbreak, or you're processing rejection, as you may interpret it, or just the disappointment of assuming, I thought this might be the one, and doggone it, they start peeling some other layers back, and then I discovered it was a stinking onion. So how do you know when you're ready for a new relationship?
I think you have to follow your heart. You also have to set a time to mourn. It is a loss. It's just like the grief and loss process, especially if you've been engaged, or you knew, or you felt that God said this was the one and he or she was not. You have to take time to heal and replace what you lost. See, a lot of people go from relationship to relationship to relationship without healing. And so I tell people when they're getting ready to break up, make sure you plan for what you're going to do on Friday and Saturday nights. Otherwise, that loneliness is going to just be consuming. You need to call your friends. You need to call your family. You need to be out networking, doing different things on Friday and Saturday night so that you can cope and you can heal. But something that's interesting in the research, it says that people that successfully move on from one relationship to another actually set a date for when they're going to move forward. They say, I'm going to heal. Beyonce broke up with me. I'm going to cry for 30 days. But on the 31st day, I'm going to see where I am and try and jump out there. They set a date, an end date to their mourning. And here's another thing. There was a study out.
You do know that that is biblical. I mean, for example, in the Old Testament, if a king died, the people mourned 30 days. They mourned a month. I mean, I've already told my wife that when I go to glory, if I go before she does, I want, they would actually hire professional mourners. I told her I want her to hire mourners. I don't want people dancing around here. I want there to be I want it to be such a lugubrious, okay, I'm just weeping, gnashing of teeth. I told her that I just want her to just periodically just stop in the funeral process and just start screaming, shaking her head and say, say it ain't so, Jesus, say it ain't so. I want her to be inconsolable for 30 days. I want to just be talking to somebody on the telephone and just all of a sudden just burst out. 30 days. 30 days.
I'm praying for you deeply. Praying for you deeply. There was a study out. All right, so here's a dilemma. This was a study done on women who had been hurt. They had been devastated and sought therapy. And they had this dilemma. On one hand, they said, I was hurt and broken to my core. On the other hand, I tried being single, and it's not me. I can't do it. I'm a wife. I can't do it. I don't see how my other girlfriends do it. It works for them, but for me, I know I need to be in a relationship. I was built for this. So they have this dilemma. Well, I don't want to be alone, but I don't want to be hurt. And what they did is something I think a lot of guys do. They decided to go second. So they would enter into a relationship with a guy, but they would pause how fast they moved relative to how fast he moved. So they would want him ahead of them. So they want him all in before she jumps in. So it was a way for them to guard their heart while still entering into a relationship. And I think that's really good advice, not to play games, but sometimes, especially women, men do it too, where we go too fast. We make the relationship more than what it is. And I think that a woman that takes her time and watches a guy's actions, not his words, and adds those up over time, then she's able to feel safe and say, I see his actions and his words aligning.
So it's not a good idea on the second date for somebody to break down and say, I love you. Is that too soon for them to start?
That's a warning sign. That's a warning sign, because what did you really do in the first 2 dates to warrant love? Yeah. And so that means easy go.
You know, they're putting out now really strongly. Some are performing at a professional level.
But you know, as a man, that doesn't bind us. That might be a soul tie.
Right.
But when you ask men who are marriage-minded or men who are married, just how important putting out is to finding a wife, they're not going to say that's part of the category. That's not even on the top 15 list.
That's correct.
That's assumed that when we get married, that we're going to do that. That is assumed. And so but we don't tell women that. We tell women just the opposite. And they think, I'm going to put my best foot forward. And they believe the lie that if I keep him fed at home, he won't have to go and get it anywhere. Meantime, the guy is thinking, what kind of standards does she have? Right. We are weird like that. We will smile, but then inside we're like, the second date? If you were with me after 2 dates, how many other men would you be after?
Yeah, that's.
But we don't ever communicate that. We just stop calling.
That's exactly correct. Yeah, I think that he's onto something that has been my experience in hearing the message that has come from men, because who they take home to mama and who they want to be the mother of their children is different from the freak who wiles out. They don't want to take that home to mama, and they don't want that to be the mother of their children. Now, see, we've got a huge problem in that men and women in the church who are supposed to be believers in Jesus Christ. Now, I hate to go there. Because fornication, they don't even know what they feel as though that went out with the early apostles. And it is so common. I was talking to Joel Osteen one day, and he mentioned to me, I hadn't paid it attention until he brought it to my attention. But he said to me, have you noticed that if you see a love scene in a movie or on a television show, the people who are not married are having passionate sex, whereas when they portray married couples, they're sitting up in the bed talking, upset with each other, turning this way and that way and discussing the children. You never see the passion and the intimacy portrayed on television. So they are devaluing marriage and glorifying the most exciting and passionate, sex among people who are not married with each other. So it's almost, if you see them having a vibrant, healthy sex life, they must not be married, or they must not have been married long.
But just the opposite, as you said, is true. The research shows that married couples have higher satisfying relationships than people who are single. And what's happened is that we believe the lie of TV. We believe that I must satisfy my sexual desires to be happy. I deserve to be happy. This is the way to do it. I see it in the movies. I hear it in the songs. However, what happens is you create this soul thirst. To where you have sex, it doesn't fill that void.
Yeah.
It's only fleeting.
Right.
It's like when the Israelites were walking, they said they wanted meat.
Yeah.
All right. But God gave them a leanness.
Right.
That no matter what you eat will not be satisfying.
Right.
And so the more sex you have, the more sex you feel like you have to have to feel better.
That's true.
And so they believe the lie.
Yep.
But there is a tip for married couples.
You'll put your hand to your ears like this.
Since you went there, I will follow. So if this goes wrong, I'm going to blame you.
He's professional. This is a doctor. This is a psychologist.
So I'm going to quote the studies so it can deflect from me. The studies show that even in married relationships, that our fantasies change every 90 days. This is what people say when they get, I'm bored. What we need to be new,
did you say among married people?
Among married people,
fantasies.
Our fantasies for what I'm keeping this PG, for what we want to do, change every 90 days. You're not saying anything. No.
Okay.
So every 90 days. So when couples are saying it doesn't have the same flame, it's not exciting, and they say I need to have something outside, I need to do something to supplement. This is what they're talking about.
I'm gonna get my wife a wig.
So you went that, but that's real. That's real. That's since you went, so we both gonna get in trouble tonight. So it's real. See, my job is to talk the truth.
Yeah.
And what happens is we don't talk the truth. This is happening.
Yeah, right.
This is happening in our marriages, and we don't talk about it. But if you go to Spain, you go to Europe, they are talking about what do you want to do to keep things fresh? Wow. What do you want to do to keep things new? Let me check in with you and find out how this is working. If you're doing the same old for every day, all the time, that gets boring. And so you have to talk to your partner about new things. All right, and I'm gonna share this story since we talked about a week. All right, so I love you, baby. I love you, baby. All right, so I come home. I'm gonna tell my wife, and she's watching Power. That's not a religious program, by the way, but she's watching Power. And I sit down next to her, and I'm trying to talk to her. I say, "Hey, babe, how was your day?" She's, babe. She's all into the scene. Yeah. I look at the TV, it's a love scene. Okay? Y'all watch, y'all know who she was looking at, okay? All right? And I said, babe, we went to school together. That's my friend. That's kind of weird. I said, you're not talking to me. And so I tried to play it off like I didn't care. I went upstairs. She said, hey. I said, no, go watch Power. Is Power over? You know? And she said, babe, are you salty? I said, you were looking at the screen a little too hard there, baby. You're looking at the screen a little too hard. And she said, you want me to tell you the truth? I wasn't looking at him. I liked the scene. I said, run that back. The reality is, it's not what we talk about. I'm talking about married folks. I'm not talking about anyone else. It's not what we talk about that kills us in relationships. It's about what we don't talk about. Because if you are bored and you are getting restless and you do have a need and you don't talk about it, then it's going to manifest itself outside of the relationship.
Well, you learn something new every day, don't you? Wow. Wow. Why is it that so many men nowadays are afraid to commit in relationship?
I think we see a lot of men, if they don't see other men in committed relationships, they don't think that's the norm. That's why I think that when we do married conferences, we should have single people somehow watch those because they're able to see love. There are people that will tell you, I don't see married couples in Atlanta because they live in downtown Atlanta and they're always in places where they don't go to the suburbs. Yep. So I think, one, they don't see it. Two, they don't think that they're good at it. Yeah. They feel inadequate. They feel like, I've never been faithful. I do not want to hurt a woman. I do not want to hurt. I will hurt a girlfriend. I will hurt a fling. I do not want to fail at marriage. I will not go and play with God. So I'm just not going to commit because I don't feel I have the capacity to do it. Yeah. But what's very interesting is that even married men, the studies show 50% of married men balked when their girlfriend asked for commitment or a ring. They balked. They stopped. They said no. And what happens is that when a woman remains steadfast, this is what I want. If you don't want to marry me, let me know. He then has to make a decision as to whether he's going to proceed forward or start all the way over.
Yeah. Wow. That's quite a journey. You know, we had a couple here, and when the young man met the woman, she was engaged to another man. He had to up his game. He did, and he won. They're married today. They've got teenage children. The children are almost grown now. You know?
Hey, if you're not married, you're still single.
See, now some ladies are going to take odds with you at that. But, wow, that's quite interesting. Let me ask you another question here. If you're in a romantic relationship and you've ended it because you realize that you are incompatible with the person, should you try to remain friends?
If you have children, I think you have no choice but to try to remain friends, because you don't want your children to see the conflict that you have. The studies show that divorce really doesn't damage children. It's the conflict from the divorce. It's the ongoing conflict. So I think that you should at least try to be cordial. Now, I know sometimes that is impossible, but you want to be cordial and you want to try to remain friends if you are, if you have children. Other than that, I think it's dangerous.
So if Joe and Helen were dating and they broke up, and sometimes in their breakup speech, sometimes they'll just say, well, let's just be friends. Is it possible to just back up and be just friends with a person?
It is possible. But the more time you spend with someone whom you are attracted to, and if you've been dating and if you were involved in intimacy, you have a soul tie to them. So you have a soul tie, you know them, and the more you share your world with them, the more likely you are to bind psychologically and emotionally. Now, if you're able to create distance and you all are able to talk and you talk infrequently, but I think you should always be weary of the ex who is a best friend.
Yeah, right.
Now, I'm not saying that you can't do that. And you should also read their behavior. Yeah. So an ex that's totally over will not step in the way. Right. They'll say, no, go ahead and call them back. They'll say, hey, you know what? I think we should have boundaries. If she has a problem with us talking, I think you should listen to her if you want to marry her. So if they respect boundaries and they behave that way, yes. But I think that it is dangerous territory because you know what a lot of women do? When a lot of women break up, I'm just going to tell the truth. When a lot of women break up, they don't date a new guy.
Wow.
They go back to their past for comfort.
That's true. Right. That's very, very true. It also happens for men. When men don't know what to do next in life, they go back to the last thing that they knew how to do well. When they don't know what to do, where to go, they go back. It's a place of comfort. And it's like, I know how to do this. And you know what? Me and Charlene had our issues, but
we will go back. It's the girl in third grade.
They live with this philosophy: better the fool you know than the fool you don't. So they use that as a philosophy. But I do agree that I think that if you've been in a dating relationship with someone, this is particularly if you don't have children together, if you've been in a dating relationship with someone and it's over, let it be over. And when the horse dies, dismount. Just dismount, just get off. It's over. It's over. And you can know that this is not my soulmate. This is not my soulmate. But you know the problem that I've discovered with them? It seems as though when they break up, they start remembering more strongly all of the positive aspects, and that they diminish the insanity and the abusive negative stuff that went, the language, the secrecy, the inconsistent patterns in their life, the stuff that had them all crying and in a fetal position, you know. But when they break up, they start thinking about, he wasn't all that bad. He did. I remember we was at this same restaurant. We sat in that table right over there, and they start having these flashbacks about that. And then they're struggling with their loneliness in the grieving process, because it's the type of death that you don't bury the other party, whether through divorce or just a breakup. You still may bump into them, and you're at home and on a Friday night, and he used to take you out on Friday nights. And then now 2 years down the road, and you still are not with anybody. And he's calling you, and you know what it's about.
You're so right. When you're in a relationship, there's a lot of good and there's a lot of bad.
Yeah.
And so when you break up with the bad, you miss the good.
Yeah. Wow.
Because now you're lonely and you don't have any good.
Yeah.
You don't have any attention.
Yep.
You don't have anyone saying you're cute. You don't have anyone, if you're saying that you're strong, that you're funny, laughing at your jokes. You don't have anyone giving you that attention, being life-giving, building you up.
Right.
And then here's what happens. And here's the danger, because you talked about people saying fornication is old school. Yep. All right. Here's the danger of fornicating before you're married. When you fornicate, you form something called a soul tie. Yep. And there is a cocktail, if you will, for a soul tie that keeps us addicted to that person. Yeah. So when you're with someone and adrenaline is flowing, it produces a chemical. It produces a chemical called norepinephrine. Okay, and norepinephrine is responsible for memory. It's memory formation and memory staying there. So anyone has adrenaline, has been through trauma, or is really focused, you can remember the color of the shirt, the smell. Oh, yeah. You can remember where they are. Those memories are formed. Well, when you combine that with another chemical of lovemaking, which is oxytocin, all right, now you're being bound to the person that you were with before. Wow. And so you have a soul tie. You can be in a new relationship.
Yeah.
And you have these visuals and this tie, psychologically, emotionally, and physiologically, to your past. Wow. And there are men and women out there that says, I love my wife, I love my husband, but I cannot get these images out of my mind. Yeah. And if you never did it, you never had that soul tie. And that's why the Bible is clear about why you should cleave to your wife, so that you can form that soul tie with your wife. Yeah. And that's the problem with pornography.
Right.
That's the problem with prostitution, is that you are building up these addictions and these soul ties with people outside of your marriage.
That's very good. Does that help you guys in the understanding of that? Wow. What are some tips that you can share to help people get over failed relationships? I mean, some people just get stuck and they can't get beyond that. I mean, like when some people experience the death of a little person, sometimes they just get stuck. What are some tips in getting a person who just can't get over Henry? He can't get over Charlene.
There's usually two types of people. Yeah. There's a person with a life, and there's a person with no life. And when they date, I have to keep it real. When they date, they make that person their life. Wow. And so the loss doesn't feel like a loss of a partner. It feels like a loss of self. Oh man, I was dating this guy. I'm never going to be able to get married again. There goes my chance at children. Wow. I'm never going to be able to be financially well off. Where am I ever going to meet someone that treat me like him or treated me like her? No one. What am I ever going to do? So they lose the essence of their life. And what we know as psychologists is that when they talk about their loss, they talk about it differently. They don't have a well-balanced life. So especially we see this with women. They don't have girlfriends. They say, I don't have a lot of girlfriends. Women are messy.
Yeah.
So when you lose the man who was your best friend,
Yeah.
and you have no girlfriends, the loneliness is harder to deal with.
Wow.
So then you go back to Tyrone because something bad is better than nothing at all.
Yeah, wow.
And so I tell people as a prerequisite, especially women, you should not date if you don't have 3 to 4 quality girlfriends.
Yeah, wow.
You're going to be too thirsty.
That's very true.
Because psychologically, we can control you.
Yeah.
All we have to do is not talk to you for 2 days.
Yeah, right.
I'm sorry, baby. I know you cursed me out, but maybe I did something to make you mad.
Right.
Maybe you were stressed out. Maybe I should have
Right.
had dinner waiting on you.
Yeah.
You know, because they're too lonely.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you have to have
That's
balance.
so true. That is so true. In fact, I've recommended to people when they start dating someone, see how they blend in with your social relationships, with your family and close friends that are in your life. And if they start isolating you away from loving relationships that are supportive and people who believe in you, who encourage you, who support you, if they start pulling you away from those relationships, I warn, that's a dangerous warning sign, because a best friend, and see, sometimes people, I've seen them dismiss it, you know, she just jealous because she doesn't have anybody. She see me, she don't want me to be happy, you know. I've seen them go down that road, but I think that in you know, you have to find your tribe. And when you've got your tribe, your family members, your sister, your cousin, your schoolmate, your neighbor, whoever that tribe is that you also do life with, so you're not just in this off-balance relationship where it's just you and Tyrone and that's your whole world. That's your whole world. And now you break up with him and you find that Tyrone had been with Charlene.
You have to stay away from controlling spirits.
Yeah, wow.
But I don't judge.
Yeah.
See, when you're a psychologist, a minister, and you sit down and you understand how this started,
Yeah.
it makes sense. So why would someone be controlling?
Right.
They believe in control over love.
Yeah.
See, I can't trust you to just love me because you'll leave me.
Yeah.
Because my mom wasn't there for me. My dad wasn't there for me. My ex wasn't there for me. My brothers and sisters abandoned me.
Yeah.
I was coming from foster. No one was there for me.
Yeah.
So I don't believe in this thing called love. It sounds good.
Yeah.
But if I can control you,
Yeah, yeah.
see, if I can control you and keep you away from other people,
Yeah.
so that you need me.
Yeah, right.
You
Wow.
need me.
Wow.
It's a lot harder for you to leave me. So it's really self-protective. It's
Wow.
just dysfunctional.
Wow. Does that make sense to you guys? Wow. Wow. I love
Someone gonna break up the night.
And you know, I find that when people finally get the guts to do that, they feel this freedom. And then they kick themselves that they didn't do it earlier. Like, why didn't I do this last year, 2 years ago? You know, so they really do. Wow. What tips can you offer to help couples communicate with better clarity with each other? Because sometimes a man will say something and a woman interprets it in a total different way. A woman will say something and the man misunderstands it, flies off the handle. What kind of tips can you give just to couples to be able to better communicate with each other?
Oh, this is a great question. God is good. He just places you in places you want to be. The number one mistake I see a lot of couples make is that they argue about what they think. All right. I think we should save money. I think we should spend money and have a good time. Well, I think that we should save money so that we can get a new house. Well, you only live once. I think we should take a vacation. We haven't had a vacation in 2 years. What's the point of working hard? And so they end up attacking one another over thoughts.
Wow.
The real connection is the heart connection,
Yeah.
the spirit connection. And so we have to talk in terms of feelings. So you have to use feeling words, men and women, feeling words. So I feel burnt out and stressed and overwhelmed with work. And I need to take a vacation so that I don't get sick and I can have some renewed energy because my health is starting to fail me.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want you to feel overwhelmed and I don't want you to feel burnt out. See, I care about your feelings. But when we argue over thoughts,
Right. Yeah.
you're going to get log jam. And what couples start doing is persuading one another.
Sure.
And when you try to persuade, all you do is make them more of them.
Yeah.
You know, it's like Republicans and Democrats. A Republican trying to convert me is only going to make me even more Democratic. You know? And so that's what happens in couples. And so you find them arguing about the same thing with no headway. And what we know about conflict is like plaque on a tooth. First little bit won't kill you. But over time, you'll get so tired of arguing, it won't even feel good.
Yeah.
Have you ever had an argument about what you're getting ready to argue about? Like, come home, we need to talk. About what?
Yeah.
No, you need to come home, we need to talk about because you're not listening to me. Oh, man, what do you want? See, that's what I'm talking about. You have a bad attitude. I have a bad attitude because you always complaining. Well, I'm always complaining because you never talk. You can't even get to the issue because you're arguing because you're so tired of arguing. Bishop, it can get so bad, facial expressions will tip you off. Someone's face is sour, and you be like, oh my goodness, there we go. So couples have to guard against that. Matter of fact, there's a ratio that shows in order for a relationship to feel good, it has to be 5 to 1. 5 good times for every negative. 5 good times for every negative. You know, a negative and a positive equals a negative. You ever been in a meeting and 3 people say, man, that was a great sermon. And one says, no, it was okay. You focus on the person that criticized you.
Right.
Same thing in relationships. So it has to be 5 to 1. All right, so I'm going to be more concise. So say your feelings. Get right to the point. Men too, but typically, and I tell my wife this all the time, baby, she'll talk for 15 minutes. What is the point? What are you saying? You're setting up the movie, but what's the issue? So, baby, we need to talk about what happened yesterday, and okay. And, you know, because I have these feelings, and I don't want you to get mad or anything, but, you know, I just, you know, well, it's like when I was in high school. There was, what is the issue? So get right to the point. Guys do it too. Sometimes we give a speech, over-talk you, all right? And you're daydreaming. You don't even know what we're talking about. And then state the recipe to fix it.
Yeah.
Sometimes we just go off and we don't tell people what we need.
Yeah.
So what I need is for you, when you come home, to kiss me and ask me if I need any help with the baby before you go upstairs and watch football.
Yeah.
That's what I got in trouble for.
Yeah.
I mean, you see me with the baby. You know it's been all day. You come in. Because you're trying to watch the Falcons, you run straight upstairs to the game because it's the middle of the first quarter. Right. But you didn't even ask.
Yeah. Yep.
You know?
Yep. Yeah, that is true. It's interesting in biblical culture. You know, like the woman that had 5 husbands, and then Jesus said, the man that you're with now, that you're living with now, is not your husband. It's interesting, he never condemned that woman for so-called shacking. She wasn't shacking. In the Jewish culture, you would go when you were betrothed or engaged to a person, and you would live with their family to learn the culture of their family. You learn their culture. So let's say, for example, people are different. People are different. I might be the type, if I come home from work, I might have a ritual of something that I need to do to make the transition from the office to the home life. And then they are met immediately at the home with domestic responsibility. I've been here with these children all day. Your turn. I might need 5 minutes to go through my ritual, to just process. And if a person doesn't know that about my culture, or how I process things, how I switch gears, because you'll have one party that can change on a dime and another that needs to, they've got to thaw out before they can make that change. So one party is really, really quick, and the other one needs a ritual. And so my ritual might have been to come home and look through my mail. I'm making the transition from who I am in the office to who I am in the home. And I need a few moments of transition. And I've seen women where they need transition. They just need some peace before somebody just, mama. They need to get in the frame of mind before you switch those roles. They just need a transition. And sometimes they don't articulate that, they just do it. And the other person, they have to figure it out. So that too can be some other things, because so much conversation is nonverbal, as you know. So that's very interesting. That's very, time just zips away when you're having fun, doesn't it? My goodness. Let me ask you another one here. If trust is broken in a relationship, can it be rebuilt? And if so, how?
Couples do it every day. So we're talking about any type of betrayal, money betrayal, stepped outside of the relationship, they lied. It can be repaired, but there's a process. So the process is you have to atone, attune, and attach. So what that means is you have to atone. That means that the other partner has to forgive on your timetable, not theirs. So when people are hurt, they're like, I said, I'm sorry, girl. I told you, I didn't mean it. I don't know what happened. It was one night stand. Get over it. But you don't understand how much you broke that person. And so you have to atone relative to their level of forgiveness on their timetable, not yours. Very good. And then they have to figure out why you did it. Yeah. You have to figure out why you did it and how it's going to be different so that they can have a reason to trust you again. Yeah. And so the second phase is the tune in. We tell couples that have been through affairs, your first marriage is over. All right. It'll never be the same again. Yeah. You have to build a new marriage from the ground because now you know the ugly truth. Yeah, yeah. And so now you have to tune in to get to know each other. Yeah. Because when you said you were at the grocery store, I believed you. Yeah, yeah. And now I don't believe you when you go to the grocery store. Right. You know, now I'm thinking about all the behaviors on how to prevent this, and I'm traumatized. Yeah. Because when you go to the gym, when you turn your phone over, you know, when you go outside and talk, all those things are triggers for me. So we have a new marriage, and I need to understand what's different now. That's attunement. And then the final one is attachment. So it's not safe to attach before you've tuned into the new person after they've atoned for what they've done.
That's very good. Wow. Very, very good. Wow. Wow. If a couple has lost the romance in their relationship, how do they get it back?
Have that conversation every 90 days. Y'all laughing, I'm serious. Wow. There's an actual survey that couples can take that they ask different questions. I'm going to ask some PG ones, okay? Yeah. So there is this notion that people like a man with slow hands. Is that true for you? Do I touch you enough during lovemaking? Another one would be, there are different ideas about who should initiate lovemaking. Let's talk about your needs and your desires when it comes to initiation. Do you want me to initiate? Or should we do 50-50? Would that offend you? Because this is different for all couples. Yeah, yeah. There's some men that would be offended with initiation. I am not of that tribe. Okay? I am not of that tribe. I want to feel wanted. Want me. The baby can be asleep at 4:30 when I get home, as far as I'm concerned. You know, but these are the type of things we don't ask. Yeah. We're afraid. We're thinking it. We're fantasizing about it on TV. We're dreaming about it, but we don't talk about it. So what we advise couples is to talk about it and also go to marriage retreats. You know, Love Center does a marriage retreat. Yep. My wife and I went, and we saw other couples having a good time, and the energy. See, sometimes just being around other couples energizes you. Yeah, you can be arguing, but everyone is dancing. Right. How you going to argue when everyone else is dancing? Right, right. And married couples understand, bro, I understand. Come on and dance anyway. I know. Come on anyway. Y'all kissing makeup. Kissing makeup. Come on. I know. Ooh, she put that on Facebook about you. Don't even worry about it, man. You know, come on up and let's have a good time. So I think that when they're in the atmosphere of other couples having fun, it's contagious. And lastly, take vacations. Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent.
At home is not necessarily romantic. It's the kids and the neighbors and chores and laundry. And there's some women that just can't shut it off. They have zoom, 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 zoom. There's some men that can't shut work off. Okay? But when you go to Jamaica and they're not bringing anything on time, well, we had these 30 minutes, obviously not going to eat. Listen.
That's so true.
Right.
Oh, wow.
I'm not going to finish that.
Wow. Let me ask a parenting question. What does a parent do if they are sensing in their spirit that the direction of their son or daughter's life is going off tracks? What kinds of indicators can parents look for to alert them to the fact that something is going on with my son, with my daughter? If they didn't have the intuition, some women are highly intuitive and they don't need any indications. But there are others, there are certain signs when there's been a change in who that child is hanging out with and whether or not they're on substance abuse or something of that nature. What kinds of indicators should they look for?
For today's kids, check their social media. All right. Social media will say it all. All right. And so you should spot check it. You should not announce it because they're going to erase every post or block you or create a fake profile and you think you're looking at something. Like, you only have 2 friends? Kids are crafty. Their social media will tell you who they really are because it's unsupervised. Wow. Also, follow their friends list. Watch who they follow and look at their pages. Wow. You want to find out if your kid has a substance abuse problem? Wow. They're following other kids that are posting pictures smoking marijuana, smoking, popping Molly. It will be, how are all your friends using drugs and alcohol? You know, how are all of your friends showing cleavage? Is that what you believe you have to do? So I say, check the social media and then watch for changes in behavior. Watch for declining grades. Look for more isolation. Look for irritability. They'll be irritable. Any of you all watch Queen Sugar? All right. Micah, the son who was had police brutality, his behavior changed. Everyone noticed it, but sometimes we'll talk it away. Well, it's just a phase. No, you need to find out what's going on. And so we check the social media and then we ask, but we have to ask with a blank face.
Right.
Because kids are so afraid of us judging them. So we say, you're not smoking marijuana and going to hell, are you? What? No, you have to have some tact. How do you know Barry? Barry posts a lot of pictures about marijuana. When Barry said it's good, you said, comment, I know, right? What does that mean? When did you, and you have to ask, here's the key. I'm going to give him a psychological trick. You have to ask him out the blue. Don't let him prepare.
Right.
When did you start smoking marijuana? How long have you been sexually active? Because they assume that you know, and don't lie. Just tell me. So you have to come right to them and ask, and then be prepared to listen. I know that's hard, but what we don't know is going to hurt them. We need to understand who they are. And sometimes as a parent, you might not be able to do it. I don't think I could tolerate, you know, my daughter telling me she was sexually active. I probably would start screaming and throwing TVs out, you know. I would probably have to get my brother or a sister to have that conversation so that she could feel open about talking. Because when you're talking, now we can have a conversation. But if I just told you not to talk, I'm pretty much fussing. That's why kids remain in secret, because I can't talk to you about something I'm struggling with.
You know, I've found that kids are so prone to do that. They don't fear talking to their parents. They fear the parents' reaction. So when the reaction is way up here over something that the kid said, they're not going to tell the truth about it, because in their mind, she can't handle the truth. So that's why we do have to have this ability to really be stone-faced And you can be screaming on the inside, and your lip on the inside can be down to in your lap, saying, "Is this my child?" But on the outside, you got to be cool as a cucumber and say, "Is that right?" You know, because if they know that they can talk to you, sometimes they've watched a sibling say something to a parent, and the parent went off. And now in their mind, it's like, I will never. I had one of my classmates, and you know, he was maybe, you know, I mean, I was 135 pounds at the time. He was probably 185. And he told me, he said, "Man, I'm sick of my dad. He said, I'm gonna jack that dude up." He took a shortcut on his way home, and when he was coming up to his house through the back door, his daddy was throwing his older brother through the glass sliding door. His older brother was 250 pounds. And his daddy, he saw that boy breaking that glass door and coming, his older brother. So he had a change of plan. You know, and he knew he couldn't talk to his daddy because his older brother had said something to his daddy. And his daddy let him know whose house it was. And he saw this dude coming through the glass sliding door. The door wasn't open until his body made contact with it, you know. So that's the way that goes. I think that this is just, has this been really worth, wow, this has been so incredibly valuable. We haven't even gotten to, we're going to have to do some more. This is so good. It is so real, and it's where real life is. That's where we are. I mean, I don't know why people assume that if you're a Christian that you're going to in some way be exempt. Even if you're highly favored, favor is not exemption. You still deal with life. You deal with relationships. And the better that we learn to do relationships, I mean, the greater joy that we can have. And you don't have to explain this to me because I don't understand it. But I've often been in restaurants and watched really old people who've been married forever. And you can tell that they have a deep love for each other. And you know that it's not based on the amount of sex. And I'm not even sure at that age that they have fantasies every 6 years, not less 90 days. But, but the thing that has always struck me is that they can be sitting out at dinner, having a great time. When you've been together so long, you know how to finish each other's thoughts. So they don't even, it's like they don't say anything. And I've nudged my wife. I said, you know, they must not like each other. But yet I found in many instances, these people are deeply committed to each other, and they have a very mature love that it doesn't even necessitate conversation when they go out to dinner. But that's old people. My wife knows that if I'm not talking, I'm not feeling well. But I have watched couples, and I'm like, how can you enjoy going out and you guys don't converse? What is that?
One, we're assuming that they know how to converse.
Yeah.
One of the problems we're having with the millennial generation and current children is that they don't know how to converse. They get in a room with one another and they get on their smartphones. And you can have a group of 5 girls sitting there and they're each on their individual smartphones, Snapchatting other people or taking selfies. No presence. No cross conversation.
Yes.
So one, they haven't been taught that. So they don't necessarily know how to connect. And then 2, intimate conversation is an art.
Yeah.
It's a skill. It is. To be able to listen like Oprah and to hear a pause. How was your day? It was okay. If you just truck right on by that, you don't. What do you mean okay?
Right.
What happened? Yeah. I don't want to talk about it. You sure? Well, I mean, it's just my boss. Oh, go ahead. Yeah. It gets on my nerves.
Yeah.
Okay. We talk in sound bites. We don't talk in paragraphs.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times people don't know how to pull and how to have intimate conversation.
Yeah.
And then a lot of couples go out and they have the bad habit of being on their smartphone.
Yeah.
So we're eating, but I'm looking at ESPN.
Right. Yep.
You know, my wife is on Facebook.
Yep.
And we're just eating around each other, but we're not involved.
Yes, so true.
Because what we know, there's a book out, I'll be brief, called Deep Work. And there's another one called The Shallows that shows that our brains have been reprogrammed by smartphones.
Yep.
And that we can't even pay attention for as long as we used to because our phones have notifications and we have to look at it.
Yep.
So you could be writing a paper, you could be trying to pray. Yep. Oh, let me look at, oh. Words that mean the same thing spelled backwards. Oh, I have to watch that. That's
right.
Things like that. And so they get in this bad habit of not being able to connect.
Yeah.
And so they're not connecting intimately. And that's why we have a lot of married couples who actually report feeling lonely.
Yeah.
They're married, yet they operate like they're single.
Yeah. Wow.
They don't know how to connect.
Wow. And I think that is one of those other areas where there need to be boundaries established, particularly by families. I grew up with such a strong sense of family, and we didn't even have smartphones at that time, but we had landline telephones and we had television. But when our family would sit down to dinner, my father made us turn off the telephone, turn off the television, and nobody could answer the telephone. And we had dinner and we talked to each other. And it was one of the most healthy environments to be able to do that. We miss so many moments. I mean, I want to sling something over at people when I'm out at restaurants and I see the whole family and they've shoved a tablet in the kid's face, entertaining the kid. Dad is on his telephone, mom is on her phone, and they're together and missing the moment instead of living the moment and creating memories. Life is a collection of memories. It's a collection of memories. And you have to live this thing, and it would be refreshing. And I really see in the realm of the spirit that a younger generation is going to come up and they're going to be turned off by technology. And they're just going to want to get up and sit up under a tree and take a guitar and sit under the street lights and doo-wop. Some of y'all, Reverend Courtney is old enough. She knows what doo-wopping is. That was it. You know what doo-wopping is? See, that's where real life is lived in so much joy. Memories are created in that space and in those moments. And I think that they can find a creative way to be able to say, you know what, if anybody picks up their phone here, establish a penalty to it. You have to lay $1 on the table, whatever it is.
We have a rule at the dinner table that no one can check their phone. You know, and I've been guilty of that. I'll check my phone. My oldest daughter, Dad, really? Really? But you're already into the email. I'm like, oh, this is important. I'm telling her you're not as important as this email because I'm already addicted to what I'm looking at. And then I'm also a hypocrite. You know, the interesting thing is that younger people, so our teenagers, are reporting that they don't feel connected. They're the loneliest generation so far. With all the eyes on them, you ask a teenager, do you feel like if you are really in trouble, you need someone? How many of your friends will really come to your house and check on you? They might tell you none, one, two. They're missing intimacy.
That's correct.
They have all the likes in the world, all the friends in the world, superficial, but no connection.
That's so incredibly true. And we've got to, you know, to me, the awareness is the beginning of change. Awareness, just being aware of that very, very fact. As well, since they communicate so much through texting now, one of the huge issues is that they don't know how to empathize. Video games have taken human empathy away from people because you can kill 1,000 people in a digital format and your brain is desensitizing you to the value of life and human relationships and talking with people because we've got this created virtual reality. So they don't know how to be empathetic, and so they'll just say something in a text even without considering how this another person might read this, and they're doing things over text that can be so easily misunderstood because I don't have expression, I don't have tone to help me to process and interpret what all is going on.
You know where else that's true?
What's that?
This is why pornography is killing the church.
Wow.
It's killing the world. You're looking, and again, you're creating that soul tie. So you're liking what you're seeing on the screen. And so you're now drawn towards secrecy. You're now drawn towards self-gratification. Yeah. And so you lose even the desire to be intimate with your husband or your wife because there's no longer a need for them. Wow. And you get addicted and you form these habits of seeing women as self-gratification. Wow. Men as self-gratification. And so we know that, here's a shocking study. They're saying that recent studies said that 9 out of 10 boys before the age of 18 will be exposed to pornography. Wow. 6 out of 10 girls will be exposed because of their smartphones. Yeah. So it's the YouTubes, it's the Googles, it's the software that's learning them. They watch a music video, it suggests another video, and eventually click on one. And guess what happens when you go back? Now you say, okay, I don't want to look at porn anymore. It was bad, I should stay away from it. When you go back, guess what they suggest you should watch? Wow. So the same way it operates when you're shopping and knows you went to Whole Foods, you look for exercise machine, guess what ads are on Facebook? Right. Ooh, exercise machine. How do they know? Yeah, right. And so the same thing, our kids are getting locked into that because of their smartphones. And so their first bond to sexuality is secrecy and self-gratification. Wow. And they can get locked into that and not know how to have feelings in a relationship. That's so true. That is so true. Will you give Dr. Tartt a hand? Wow. I hope this has been valuable and meaningful to you this evening, and that you've taken some mental notes. I want to encourage you to get the CD and listen to it again, because he gave some great nuggets, some great information that can really help us to be able to make some powerful changes. Listen to it again, take notes, and think about it. Think about it and digest it. It is reflection that turns experience into insight. So you take time and reflect on what has been shared in this session tonight. And I hope that it has been meaningful to you, and we'll do some more that's like it, and that you find this to be very practical and meaningful to you. So again, thank you, Dr. Tartt, for sharing with us tonight. And thank you, Bishop Bronner. We're just blessed that you're here.